Hello, good afternoon. This is Carla Metzdorf. I am a certified health and life coach that helps moms to overcome anxiety, and I'm also admin to the group Overcoming Anxiety for Stressed Out Moms who've had enough, for stressed out moms who've had enough. Today I'm coming on to talk to you all about overthinking. Okay, we want to stop that overthinking so that we can have some peace. Because when we have an anxious mind, we have a lot of thoughts going on. I see more and more moms are coming on. As you come on, ladies, say hi. Hello, hello. How is everybody? We're talking about overthinking today because overthinking is something that we all do when we're anxious. Our thoughts just get away from us and we need to regain control. So I am just gonna update the group because I see comments more in the group than I do on my phone. So I'm kind of go back and forth where I look. Don't mind me, okay? So let's jump into this. Hi. See, you're all saying hello. Hi, everybody. Okay, so overthinking. So I want to give a little definition so that we're on the same page of what we think overthinking is. My definition may not be yours, but that's why I want to give a definition so that you understand where I'm coming from, okay? So very simply, what is overthinking? It's excessive thinking. Yeah, overthinking is exactly the way it sounds. It's your mind, okay, your brain thinking, but more excessively than it needs to. It's really not doing you any service, all right? And we're going to get into that. As you come on, ladies, say hi. We're talking about overthinking today. And this overthinking is just is the brain excessively thinking. You have an anxious mind, and that anxious mind, and what it's doing, okay, is it's trying to figure things out. Your brain, remember, I have told you many times, your brain is trying to help you survive. That is its sole purpose. The brain is trying to help you to survive. So what your brain's going to do is when things happen in your life, an event or whatnot, okay, you're going to analyze, okay? Now we're thinking with an anxious brain here. We're going to analyze and evaluate. We're going to monitor or check, right? We're going to worry. Or we're going to have doubt because that's what anxiety is, right? It's uncertainty. We have a lot of doubts about the situation, about whether we can handle it. Control, it's about control, judging. This is what overthinking is. It's us doing all of these things with our anxious mind. It's no wonder we're in constant fight or flight. Hey ladies, thank you for joining me. I'm talking about overthinking, how to stop it, and how to have some peace in your life because that's what we want. Yeah, for sure. We need to get to a place of peace. But how to do that when your mind is over and over thinking the same scenarios, just going through your mind. So perhaps you're stuck in the past. Something happened in the past, an event, and you just can't stop thinking about it. It's going over and over. Or you're in the future. What if? What if? All those what if thoughts just over and over. What if this happens? What if that happens? And you're trying to figure out, how am I going to cope? How am I going to deal? How am I going to handle it? So how do you know if you have an overactive mind, if you're like always overthinking? Because ladies, you can overthink and not be anxious. You don't have to have anxiety to overthink something. But usually people with anxiety do overthink. Does that make sense, ladies? Do you understand that? Give me a 1 if that made sense, okay? So how do you know? So basically, if you've got anxious thoughts going in your mind over and over again, but you're not going anywhere, like in other words, you're reliving the past, or you're stuck in the future wondering how you're going to cope and how you're going to be, right? But that's all you do. You're not taking any action to problem solve, right? To make the situation better, to figure out how you're going to be better. Is that all making sense, ladies? Anybody need any clarification? Let me know, okay? Because I don't want to keep going on if there's any confusion with what I said. And if you just came on, please watch this from the beginning, okay? Overthinking is something our anxious minds do. And it doesn't have to stay that way. It can be stopped, and we're going to talk about that today, okay? So I just went over what an anxious mind is, what overthinking is, and why you do overthink, okay? And how do you know you have a mind that overthinks, right? So overthinking is basically your mind, your brain, okay, protecting you, trying to get to the root of that problem. Okay, we don't want that problem in our life. Like, everything started with some kind of event, some kind of thing that we said we couldn't handle, we couldn't deal with, that caused a lot of stress in our life, right? And we're overthinking, we're trying to figure it out. We keep addressing it over and over and over again. But we're not getting anywhere, right? Now, I put it in the group yesterday. That was yesterday. And basically what I asked you was, what does your overthinking keep you from doing in life, right? What does your overthinking keep you from doing? And most of you were, and I mean, I can't read every single one here, but basically what it boils down to, your overthinking is keeping you from living your life, from enjoying your life, from being who you want to be. You're so focused on your problem. You're not thinking of the solution. You can't get beyond that. So basically, you're stuck in that analyzing and evaluating and the monitoring or the check-in, right? You're stuck in worry and doubt, trying to control, right? And I think I missed one. Judging. I think it's judging, right? We're judging. We're trying to figure things out, or the brain's trying to figure things out. And you know, we know anxiety. We always say fight or flight. We're in fight or flight. But there's also freeze, okay? There's fight, flight, but there's freeze. The more fear you add to your thinking, right? The more fear you add to all those thoughts you're having, you're going to freeze. That is called analysis paralysis, okay? So basically what that means is that instead of taking action, you freeze in like this fear, because the brain is just going over all of these thoughts, all these outcomes, trying to figure it all out for you. So instead of taking the action, you don't know how to, because that fear just keeps you frozen in time. Okay? So the anxious mind, all right, feels threatened. You don't want to make mistakes, right? So, you've heard of perfectionism, right? So people who are perfectionists want to always get it right. So what they do is they would rather, or the brain would rather, because people who are perfectionists and who procrastinate sometimes don't even know that this is going on, that they're taking their time doing things because the brain's trying to find the perfect way to do it. It is better to be inactive and not do it at all than to do it and make a huge mistake. Makes sense, right, ladies? So our brains, sometimes we feel broken, right? I hate that word. But I'm just using words that I know you can relate to. Because you're not broken. Your brain's doing exactly what it's meant to do. Okay? It really is. However, it's got to be guided differently. Okay? So we're gonna get to that. What to do differently, right? So the anxious mind gets stuck in the past, going over and over and over, or it's in the future, what ifing, right? So, but instead of problem solving, we're just never reaching that solution or coming to any kind of conclusion about what to do. Okay. So, what do we need to do? How do we break that? So you ladies know that in this group, okay, when I had debilitating anxiety, okay, not only did I focus on neuroscience, okay, I also focused on, I became very, I strengthened my relationship with God. I read the Bible and I understood, basically what God says, all right? So this solution that I have is twofold, okay? So basically, we're not going to get biblical yet. Let me stay with neuroscience first, okay? Let's go there, and then don't worry. I'm gonna get into the biblical part. So our thoughts, right? We have thoughts. Those thoughts, right? Tell our brain what we think about something, how we perceive something. Okay? Are you all with me, ladies? Everybody understanding everything I'm saying so far? Listen, if you need clarity, if you have questions, please put them in there. I don't want to go on if this is not making any sense, all right? So we plant seeds in our brain. We're telling the brain something's wrong. So now the brain, okay, is going to try, hey, Missy, is going to try to figure things out, right? Your attention, whatever you give your attention to, is where your brain goes, right? So if you have, let's say, a thought in your head, okay, something is like, you're like, am I sick? Is something wrong with me? Now, this is really bothering you, right? Maybe you have a symptom and you don't know what this symptom is. So, am I sick? Am I sick? Instead of running to the doctor, doing something about it, you are so maybe paralyzed in fear, okay? You're overthinking the situation. Maybe I got this. Maybe I got that. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe that's wrong. And sometimes we get so into it, we're so in the future. Like, seeing ourselves in the hospital and sometimes even seeing ourselves in the grave. Okay? So, but whatever we give our attention to is what's going to grow. Okay? Now, your repeated attention to these thoughts, okay, is what makes our mind just overthink and be so focused, okay? It's your press and repeat. You can't seem to get away from that pattern. And when you add fear to it, right, and you do it over and over and over, it becomes an automatic thought. It becomes automatic. Now, you've heard me say this before, whatever you practice is what you're going to get good at. So if you keep the practice of focusing on your negative, unwanted, intrusive thoughts, instead of doing something about it, they're going to grow. They're going to be what you focus on, right? So what do we do with that? Okay? first of all, we know stress, right? When we're very stressed out, okay, our mind goes into like overwhelm, overload, right? Where our minds are just like, I used to say my mind feels like, my brain, I should say, feels like mashed potatoes. I couldn't think for myself. I felt like in a total, everlasting brain fog. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Does all of this making sense? Give me a 2 or say yes if this is making sense, or if you need any clarity, if you have any questions. Let me know, okay? So, de-stressing and calming down your anxious mind, the central nervous system, is what's going to help you, okay, regain control of those thoughts. Because it's about control, right? Great. I'm glad you're understanding this. It's about control, right? We have anxiety because we want to control. But when we have thoughts that just make us feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't even think for myself, right? We feel out of control. So, one of the things is getting good at controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't. What can be changed so that you can remove that stress and be a better person, okay? What can you control? Take control. Now, if everything you're thinking of are things that are beyond your control, that requires you to let go and to adapt to this situation. If you can't control it, perhaps you need to adapt to this new normal. We call it like a new normal, right? Something happened. I can't control what happened. I can't control what's going on, right? So now it's time to let go and to adapt. This is also acceptance. Now, ladies, I have live trainings that talk about all of this. I have live trainings on acceptance and how to let go. You can find those on YouTube. I believe they're on YouTube. And if you don't see them, let me know and I can send them to you because they should be in my file somewhere. But the thing is what do you need to do to move on, right? So to calm everything down, like if you're not sure what your thoughts are, you could do something like journaling. Things like breathing. Okay? What you want to do is get present. Be in the present time. Why? Because our thoughts, if we're in the past, we're reliving the same thing over and over. Unless we're thinking of it to learn from it. But see, we have to get good at understanding what the past is trying to teach us so that we can learn the lesson and let go. Because if you don't do that, you're just hanging on. That's why it's going over and over in your mind, right? Or you're in the future. What if? What if thinking, right? I mean, like, I know you all know what I'm talking about. So, but when you're present, guess what's not happening? Neither one of those. Breathing will help you be in the present. Meditations, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you like 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can hear, 3 things I could touch, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I could taste, right? Really using those senses to keep you in the present moment, to ground you in the present. So basically what you're doing is you're distracting the brain and breaking that thought pattern in the moment. Things like visualization, PMR, these are all things that can help you calm down. You want to change your thought patterns. we have thought patterns like catastrophic thinking. When you catastrophize, right? You're very negative thinking. You're always thinking fearful, always very negative. Or you're, what I said before, like procrastination or black and white thinking. It's either good or it's bad and there's nothing in between. There's so many different types of thinking. I call them thinking traps, okay? They're ways of thinking that keep your mind in a certain, like, focus. You're focused in a certain way, and it's hard to get beyond it. So basically, you just want to stop, not stop thinking. It's hard to stop thinking. I know there's a process out there where, I just turned my phone, where you, thought stopping, that's what it is. Now, thought stopping, I don't know. I mean, maybe I have a different definition. This is why I give definitions. See, it's very hard to stop thinking. I don't think anybody goes more than like 2 or 3 seconds without thinking, okay? But the thing is to have awareness, right? To recognize the thought, okay? And then you want to like identify that thought, all right? What kind of thought is it? I was talking about those thinking traps before. And basically, to stop overthinking, what you need is transformation. You really need transformation. So what you want to do is you want to ask yourself some questions. This thought that I'm having, is it true? Is it something that is possible? Am I being unrealistic? Where's the evidence that this thought is going to really happen or that it's true? Or, you have to kind of challenge the thought a little bit. That's if it's a thought that goes over and over and you can't get rid of it, okay? Not every thought has to be challenged, okay? But if you have a thought that just won't go away, try to understand why you're having that thought. But living in the present, getting in that present moment and facing that thought is the best way for it to go away. Because anything you push away, anything you pretend is not there and you ignore, it's just going to come back, ladies. It's just going to come back. All right? So that is a great way to stop your overthinking. You want to change that event that happened where your thinking started. You want to change your perception. You want to change what you think about it, your attitude. We're changing our focus. Like we're changing. I mean, you always hear me say, you can't overcome anxiety with the same mindset that started it, okay? I've said that so many times, and some of you are new to me and may never have heard me say that. But it is so true. The mindset that where you started anxiety, you're not going to be able to overcome it with the same mindset. You need to make change. You need to make transformation. You need to change and your relationship with anxiety. Change your perceptions, change your attitudes, grow in appreciation, focus on those blessings, live present. Now, when I had anxiety, okay, I started reading the Bible a lot. I wanted to understand, what does God say about all of this? All right? So I came up with a formula. Now, I did not get this from any science book out there, about the brain or anxiety book. I literally got this from the Bible, all right? So, two things that I read, okay? Proverbs 4. Okay, and I did write it down because I want to get it right. Be careful what you think, because your thoughts run your life. So this is something, okay, that we learned thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. This is older than Jesus. Proverbs is the first, okay, part of the Bible. The Old Testament, not the New Testament. So this is thousands of years, even before Jesus, okay? We were already told that the way we think affects how our life goes. Our thoughts influence how we feel, which together influence what we experience. Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinks, so is he. Again, your thoughts influence how you feel, which influence what you experience. So my first step, okay, is awareness. You have to be aware that this is happening. You've got to catch yourself in the act, okay? And where I got that from, okay, if I can find, I want to say it right. Where is it? Oh, sorry. It's literally right here. Okay, 2 Corinthians 10:5. We take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. A lot of times our thoughts, okay, they're not even true. They're not realistic, okay? Our thoughts are made with fear, especially our anxious minds. Our thoughts are made with fear. What do we know about fear? We don't have a spirit of fear. Okay, that's not from God. So thoughts coming from fear probably are not something that's true. So our first step is to take that thought and keep it captive. In other words, catch yourself having it. Be aware of it. And then the next step, the next thing I want you to do is what I said before. Get very present, living in the present time. Why? Because if you're present, you're not in the past, you're not in the future. And what are you not doing? You're not overthinking. Because you can't if you're just in the present time. Focus on what's going on right now. You're not what-ifing. And you're not rethinking the situation over and over. At least not yet, because you haven't really passed it yet, but you're present where God is. Psalm 37 says, be still in the presence of the Lord. Wait patiently for him to act. So in the present time, be with God. That is a good time to pray. Tell God everything that's in your mind, in your heart. Psalm 46, be still and know that I am God. He is only in the present, ladies. Third step, we need to reprogram. Now, in Matthew 12:43-45, or in Luke 11:24-26, it's told on 2 accounts. Jesus was talking about unclean spirits. They will leave a person, okay? An unclean spirit can leave you, but what it does is it wanders, looking for another place to go. But if you, okay, if you are not replacing, that unclean spirit will go back and return to its house. That house being you, your mind. Now this can sound scary, but it's so true. How many times have you said, I don't understand? I stopped feeling anxious years ago, and then an event happened, and all of a sudden, I'm so anxious. It came back worse than before. Because what happens when that unclean spirit returns and it finds its person, empty, swept, and put in order, it prompts the unclean spirit to bring back 7 more wicked spirits. Hi, Shanika. It's okay if you're late. Just watch the replay, Shanika. Actually, I am going to... Okay, I just updated. Oh, Tracy, hi. This advice is wonderful. Good, I'm glad. Okay. So, Jesus himself told us we need to reprogram, because if we don't, if we don't replace what we got rid of, it's just going to come back. Your mind automatically goes back to what's familiar. The removal of your thoughts is not enough. You need to replace it with God's words, with the Holy Spirit, okay? So, Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Matthew 15, evil thoughts come from the heart, but can be resisted with the truth of God's word. So when you have these thoughts in your mind, and you get present, and let's say your mind is telling you you're not worthy. First thing, get to the Bible. Look it up. Use chat GPT if you need to. Where in the Bible does it say that I'm worthy? Read what God's word says about you. Don't believe the lies that are being whispered to you. If it's making you angry and sad and anxious and afraid, that's not God. Because you're like, how do I know it's not God? God would never. The negativity like that does not come from God. Colossians 3:1-2. Believers should set their minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. Romans 8:5-8. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on things of the Spirit. So again, don't believe everything that your mind tells you. The brain's trying to figure things out, even if it's a scary thought. I've told you all about that thought I had about drowning my kids in the tub. God certainly did not put that there, That was my mind trying to understand, am I crazy enough to do something like that? Because I just remember seeing that on TV and thinking, oh my gosh, what does a mother have to do to drown her kids? And then my mind, I guess, was like, okay, Carla, let's try to figure that out. And then I couldn't get that out of my head. And all I did was imagine me drowning my kids. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Am I going to do that? There's something wrong with me. And it kept going, the rumination, over and over. And I cried for hours. And I know I'm not the only one who has had such vicious thoughts like that. You lost connection. Sometimes that happens with some of you. I lose connection with some of you, and I don't know why. If it happened with everybody, I'd say it's definitely me. Hopefully you could catch the replay and you'll understand, what you missed. But the last thing to my formula that I got from reading the Bible is what I call garden. Guarding. Guarding. You need to guard your mind always, your thoughts, your way of thinking, In other words, you got to keep watch. Because remember, if you keep it empty, if you get rid of some negative thoughts, You keep it empty, more chance of the evil one coming back and taking occupation again. Okay? So, what we want is to press repeat. You guard, right? And you keep catching yourself, getting present, reprogramming, replacing, rewiring. That's what we're doing here. So catching yourself in the Bible is like the awareness I talked about before. Being present is like you want to challenge that way of thinking. You want to ask yourself those questions. Programming is rewiring, right? Because in our brain, we have, our brain has channels, right? It has a different way of neuron paths, is what I'm just trying to remember. Neuron paths, okay? So, but neuroplasticity says we can change the brain, okay? We can change it. I've heard too many people say, but that's just me. That's who I am. That's how I think. That is your choice. You want to be this way? I can't force you to be any other way. But if you're thinking, okay, if this overthinking is keeping you stuck and you can't get out of your anxious mind, why would you choose that? This is how to break free, okay? Repeat, 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 repeat. All the time. Whenever I get inside my head, this is what I do. I mean, just because I'm over anxiety, okay? Over anxiety just meaning I have my power back. It no longer controls me, okay? Just because I'm over anxiety doesn't mean I don't get some thoughts sometimes and I'm just like, all right, okay, and I gotta wake up and be like, all right, obviously, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed here, and I get really present, and I'm like, and I just reprogram with what I want, how I want to be. You control who you're being in every given moment. You have that control. You need to choose that. Okay. I've been sick this week and it has me thinking negative thoughts. What do I do? Rewatch this live training. That's what you can do. And I have other trainings on what if thinking. I have trainings on negativity and how to be positive. Okay? But watching the trainings will absolutely help you understand what it is you're going through and why and how to overcome it. What actions you can take. Okay? So does anybody else have any questions? Because that's basically what I got, ladies. So does anybody else have any questions about anything that I said? And if you just came on, please rewatch the live replay. That will be played as soon as I finish here. So, anything? Any questions at all? I said a lot, and the information I gave was quite helpful. Ladies, if you stick to what I said, you do that formula, you're going to regain control of your thinking. Okay? And remember, your thoughts influence how you feel, which gives you your experience. So if you're having racing heart, you're having all these symptoms, okay? All these things don't happen for no reason, because I keep hearing that. It happens for yes, it will help with OCD. OCD is just your stressed out, anxious mind. I had OCD so bad. Oh God, I couldn't leave my room. I kept going down the stairs and back up the stairs, down the stairs, up, back up the stairs, because I was convinced I left my lights on. I didn't close my closet doors. As I let go of, and dealt with that anxious mind, I become less and less OCD about things. every once in a while I catch myself. Yeah, every once in a while, like I'll go put something in the dryer and then my mind will go, you didn't turn on the dryer. Or by accident, not everything got in the dryer. Something's laying on the floor. And I gotta go, no. I know that's not true. You know, and I let go of it, and sometimes I do. I give into it. I go back and I check and I go, oh, you were right, Carla. Why did you listen to that thought? It's your fear talking, okay? I want you to know this was my favorite video. You explained so much. Aw, thank you, Tracy. Thank you. I'm doing the best I can. But ladies, listen, I know that this is hard. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't want you to think it's hard. I mean, it's something you need to practice. What you practice is what you get good at, okay? But if you need help with the practicing, if you need somebody to move you along, support you, keep you accountable, please get in touch with me. And we could work together, because I'm somebody who has gone through this, has overcome it. I know exactly what to do. And instead of struggling, let me help you get over that hump, all right, and get to the other side. Do it quicker than you would if you were to do it yourself. I will help you. You know where to contact me. Just send me a message in Messenger and I'll get right back to you. And let's talk about it, okay? It's free for us to just talk about it, on how I can help you, okay? How we can go over the options of how we could work together. And then I guarantee my work, ladies. I don't know if you even know that. I guarantee my work, okay? So let's talk about it. And let's finally help you to overcome anxiety. All right, ladies, be well, take care. Love to you all. Remember, I'm praying for you. Pray for me as well. Take care. Bye.